Dr. Kwabena Donkor, what's your understanding of what is happening?
Well, essentially, when you deregulate, you need a regulator. When you liberalize, you need a regulator. The regulator is the referee. The regulator looks at all the angles to the situation and then takes a decision. And in our context, we have two regulators. We have the PURC, which is the economic regulator, and we have the Energy Commission, which is the technical regulator. If a regulator issues orders or directives, the entity or the person at the end of it should comply. If you can, for any reason, can't comply, you immediately go back to the regulator and state your case. Or sometimes you can go to court to quash the orders of the regulator.
That's right.
This is what happens in a regulatory framework. You see, regulation is a craft, and it is important we understand this. The PURC is there to protect the interests of consumers, the interests of producers, and all the players along the value chain. So the PURC is really the referee. And so when the referee issues an order, and it is legal, you have to comply. Mm-hmm. If you don't comply, you are fined. The entity can be fined. And so it is not for the ECG to say we have a stable national network or transmission network, and so they won't comply or decide to choose where they comply and where they do not comply. In any case, ECG is not responsible for the National Interconnected Transmission System.
What is that?
NITS. It's Gridco. It is Gridco that is responsible. So you don't issue statements on things that you are not responsible.
So do I understand you to say that the order should be directed to Gridco instead?
No, please, to ECG.
To ECG?
Yes.
If it is not in control, why should the order be directed at it?
The transmission system is different from the distribution system. The transmission system, to use the local parlance, is just like Kayaye. You give the Kayaye load to carry, and the Kayaye delivers the load from the point contracted to the other point. If the load is half load, the Kayaye will carry the half load. If it's full load, it will carry the full load. So you can't blame the Kayaye for bringing you half load. Because that was what the Kayaye was charged with. Gridco is the transmission company. It will only take to the distributing companies, and there are two of them, if you ignore Enclave Power, which is a small private sector entity. It's basically Gridco and ECG and Netco. Those are the two distribution companies. So they have contracts. What Gridco does is to wheel the power contracted and the power supplied to their substations
for them to take to us.
Yes, to us. So how do you blame me if I do not have enough power, if I'm not given enough power to wheel?
So are they really being non-compliant when what they tell you is that it is not that they are shedding power, but these are things that are unpredictable. They are localized outages. How can you have a timetable to that?
That is not factually correct. You see, at the scale, I can understand when one transformer goes off or a transformer is loaded and some of the modern ones will automatically switch off if they are overloaded, etc., or browns out. That I can understand. However, when this week, on the average, you were shedding at peak 400 megawatts, it cannot be localized. That cannot be localized. Look, you say you are changing or working on your transformers, about 900 of them. You have over 32,000 transformers. So how can work on 900, around 900, have this national impact? It cannot. I can understand ECG. They're a commercial entity. And let us never forget that ECG is a limited liability company.
That is so.
Pure commercial focus. The Ghanaian state wanted ECG to be a company and establish it as a company. So, of course, it will want to put the best foot forward. And so we will capitalize on our situation to explain away the shortcomings to the best we can. I don't blame them for attempting to do that. Any business will do that. And that is why there's a regulator. The regulator will listen to you, listen to other players, and decide that, look, this is it.
Is this what you say is not accurate? Let's listen to the former Minister for Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He spoke this week. Now Minister for Energy, right. He spoke to former Minister for Education, rather. He spoke to the press and has appeared to have angered many people. But this is what Dr. Kwabena Donkor is saying is not exactly accurate.
Energy sector, the current power cuts. Some people are saying that you made mention of this. You use this as a campaign against John Mahama, and now we are experiencing a worse situation under President Akufo-Addo. Would it reflect in the 2024 election? Would it be something that people will stand on to vote?
If you are comparing 4 years, MPP administration, energy sector is 300 times better than John Mahama.
But we are still experiencing Dumsor.
Nobody has said we haven't. I'm just saying it's far much better than John Mahama ever did.
You do admit that there's Dumsor.
That is the word you used. I have never used that word. I've promised you that we are going to work on it. And it's not a work that is a single event. It's a process. And we'll continue to work on it for the energy sector to become better.
Have you heard of calls for a timetable?
Ask those who want it to bring it.
They should bring the timetable.
If there is, I haven't seen any timetable. So when
people are calling for it.
Say bring a timetable, what do you mean? The ECG says that there is no timetable coming. Why do you want to bring a timetable? What purpose? Why would somebody get up and wish evil or bad for the country?
So it's not a situation they can have a timetable to.
The minister says, ECG says. If you listen to him,
right,
he says ECG says. He's not saying. Mm-hmm. And to start with, it's not the minister's responsibility to issue a timetable or not to issue.
But you are saying ECG is being untruthful?
Yes, I'm saying that it's not the minister's responsibility. It is the responsibility of PURC. They have the mandate to demand for one. And they have demanded for one. So as for the minister, what the minister is saying, it's like on the sidelines. Because we must be a country of law and order.
If you took PURC as a court, courts can get it wrong anyway.
Well,
so their response is that...
If a court gets it wrong, don't you go for appeal?
So they have issued their response in terms of the compliance. And they are saying, ultimately, that there is stable national grid.
You see, are they responsible for the grid? Are they responsible for the grid? You are not. Gridco is the one responsible for the national grid. And Gridco will ask you that, look, this is the amount of power available today. So knock off 200 megawatts at peak. If you don't, Gridco, in charge of the Systems Control Center, will decide to knock you off. Other than that, there will be a national meltdown, a systems meltdown. And if they know to be, if you are proactive, they ask you to knock off 200, and you do.